changes once again. And I know the audio quality isn't as good as it could be. I'm working on it. I'll get there in the end. But first, let me welcome you to Tag Back, the show where every week we take a look at another blaster from the past to see what it can offer us today in the present. And this time, well, I'm taking a suggestion. Not that I don't take most suggestions I get, it's just most of them I already have a plan for, but I happen to be browsing through the comments as I do multiple times a day, and somebody suggested I take a look at the Zombie Strike Ripshot. And it's not like I have a problem coming up with blasters for Tag Back. The main issue is just coming up with enough stuff to talk about. I try to make these at least 5 minutes long, and you'd be surprised how hard it is to come up with 5-minute long videos on some of these blasters. But I do actually have some interesting stuff to talk about the Ripshot, because not only did I like this blaster quite a bit, but I even modified one. Well, that's kind of a weird thing to say, because I kind of integrated it into something and not really modified the blaster all that much. But there is a trick to this blaster, which we'll get to, but we'll have to start off with what the blaster actually is, and that's a Vortex blaster. If you don't remember, this is NERF's kind of failed attempt to make these little tiny, very good in my opinion, discs, much better than little foam ones you see shooting out of things like the triple mech, and make them like, well, it was kind of a little bit before the Elite line, so these things were really good out of the box for a little while until Elite stuff started coming in, and even then, they were perfectly serviceable against most Elite blasters. What kind of killed them was their lack of modification potential because of the firing mechanisms, and worse yet, it's, they're weird. And the ammo type has some inherent flaws, like its inaccuracies after a certain distance, and its massive loss of velocity. But the Ripshot from the Zombie Strike line was kind of the last blaster released in the line, with stuff like the Fuse Fire and the horrendous Ricochet. But when I saw this thing, I pretty much had to have it, because looking at this thing, and I wouldn't forgive you if you thought the same thing, it kind of looks like the Magnum from Halo. And now we actually have a Magnum from Halo in the form of the Boomco M6, but this thing, I'm pretty sure I've already seen somebody paint this to look exactly like the Magnum from Halo, and I have a huge, I'm a sucker for these kind of grips with the bars and stuff right here. I wish it was on every single blaster I had. But the best thing about this is how horrendously terrible it is. This is a bad blaster, a very bad blaster. It's very weak, it's not good, it's huge for what it is. You can get a fire strike with a brass barrel that's smaller than this thing, and will hit probably 3 times the ranges. So what is it about this, besides being kind of like one of the few Vortex sidearms, even though the Proton was infinitely better in basically every way? There was one thing I found out about this blaster that I never saw in any review, and I've watched, I think, all of them. On the box of this blaster, which of course I don't have because this is like 3 years later, it says it's a quick firing blaster. To load this thing, you take a disc out of your dart storage, you put it in here, and you very carefully put your finger and kind of wedge it in there, and it will pinch the very end of your finger, and it will give you like a hangnail. It's horrible, or whatever you call that when your skin peels back on your finger from your fingernail. This thing is not fun to use for the long term, and I've never actually tried to sand that off like in there, because it's really sharp in there. But you put it in there, you make sure it's all the way back there, you pull this back, or don't pull it back, because there we go, you have to make sure it's all the way forward, then you pull it back. Nope, see, it's not even working. There we go. Now it's primed. This is it, primed. Then you pull the trigger, and it fires the disc, and then you have to push this back. That is not quick firing. That is the exact opposite of quick firing, and I tried to wonder what that was about, but I realized this blaster was one of the few Vortex blasters you could pull the trigger with no disc in there. Now you can't prime it, it's got all sorts of locks that are really heavy duty, but that made me think, what is this quick fire? Like, it doesn't say anywhere in the instructions. I've looked in, you know, the back of the box and everything like that, and I figured out through sheer dumb luck, if you put a disc in here, you hold down the trigger, and then you prime the blaster, he says as nothing happens, it will basically slam fire the disc. It will slam fire one disc, and it's manually loaded. Useful? No. Cool? possibly it is kind of fun to whip this thing off the hip and, you know, delete somebody with it. Although, again, with how many reliability issues this thing has, I wouldn't bank on it. But of course, this got me thinking, this would be a really cool integration. Not that I don't like the original shell, I mean, it's super comfortable. This is one of the most comfy grips I've ever seen on any blaster. It's huge, but it's not like, I mean, I don't have big hands, but it's very comfortable. It doesn't pinch my fingers between here at all. It is very, very comfortable to use. It feels like it's made for my hand. And I wish more blasters had just huge, bulbous, but comfortable grips like this. But with this blaster, I kind of figured that out, and I wanted to use that feature in something, and that's where we go to the good old Alpha Strike, which was a blaster I modded about a year ago now. That, well, it's different. It's a dual strike, but it's got an inline big shock on the top of it, meant to shoot either megas or in this case, rival rounds. And then on the bottom, it's got a Ripshot, and it's kind of undermounted, so if I pick up a disc here, so if I take this disc and I put it in there, it kind of fires it upside down, but I don't need a trigger or anything in here. I can do whatever I want, but then I can pull it back and it fires the disc. That is the only use I've ever seen for the Ripshot. It is a very comfortable blaster. It is fun to use, except for the fact that it can't hurt your finger. I mean, if you have thicker fingers than mine or pudgier fingers than mine, you're gonna have some issues. And then again, with the reliability, with how hard that thing is to prime, it can be pretty annoying, but it's still a cool blaster that serves pretty much no practical use and is still terrible. Do I like it? Yes, I like it a lot, but it is terrible and I'm never going to not say it isn't. But I tried to make one functional in a blaster that shoots just about every dart out. I know a lot of people pointed out it doesn't shoot Demolisher rockets, it doesn't shoot any of the old school ammo, it doesn't even shoot Boomco. I guess Captain Xavier's ire has got me beat on this one, but this was the original. I built this a long time ago, and still it's while it's absolutely massive, it does fit into a holster if you really wanted it to. What do you think about the Zombie Strike Ripshot? Do you think this is the reason why Zombie Strike died? Well, let me know down in the comment boxes below. And of course, if you happen to like these kind of videos and you'd like Tag Back, hit the like button. And of course, if you don't, the dislike button is there for you as well. I'm Walcom S7, thank you very much for watching this video, and of course I hope to see you in an entirely different one. And I'm sorry about the break recently, but again, I've been doing stuff. Walcom out.